Today on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat, the team at Rocky Point Boat Works moves forward on the Suzuki outboard service with proper spark plug inspection and more.
He's going to stand around and watch Dave. I'm going to go ahead and tackle taking out that stinky lower unit oil.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, man.
The fiberglass experts at Wildfire Marine design and build a custom interior for the Bertram project.
Now that we have our transom all wrapped up, we're going to go ahead and work on some custom seating and another piece of deck up in the forward area to give him a little more cockpit space.
George Labonte joins Jessica Wakefield aboard her fully restored 26-foot Gold Line.
This is where my best memories came into play as a kid, so it really created a foundation for wanting to rebuild the boat to stay connected to my dad.
And the experts at TRB put their creative minds to the ultimate test on their latest TRB Customs project.
It's a scary thought where you've laid so much on the line to do this project, and you know, the buck stops with me on making sure that this project is done properly.
All coming up on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us as we follow one-off builds to all-out restorations in Stuart, Florida's Dreamboat District, home to some of the best custom boat builders in the world. From modest to over-the-top, industry experts from the district's premier facilities show how it's done. Fiberglass repair, custom paintwork, engine rigging, electronics installations, and more. And boating editor George Labonte shares the stories of boaters who have already turned their dreams into reality. This is Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat.
So today at Rocky Point Boat Works, we're going to pick up where we left off last week on the Suzuki service. Today we're going to do spark plugs and
Gear oil change.
perfect.
He's going to stand around and watch Dave. I'm going to go ahead and tackle taking out that stinky lower unit oil.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, man. So when you're going to drain your lower unit fluid, I always like to take the lower plug out first, and then I'll take the top plug out. This way you don't get doused in nasty gear oil, right?
Yeah,
While it's coming out, make sure there's no water in there. Look at the color, make sure it's not gray. That would indicate you have a bearing failure or something like that. If it all looks good, we're gonna refill it and send it on its way. So we're blessed with our filler here. It's pressurized, so it helps out. But you guys that do yourselfers, there's a little hand pump. So we're just letting it do its thing. It's kind of nice. If you have some phone calls or texts to get to, now's the time. All right, so while we're filling it, Suzuki recommends that you tuck that motor all the way up in there while you're filling it. This allows any air bubbles that may get trapped in there to get purged out while you're pushing it through with your oil fill. Once you see you got a good stream of oil coming out of your top vent plug, you want to go ahead and reinstall your plugs, but you want to make sure you replace the gasket that was on there. Gear oil is all taken care of. It's time for Mark to earn his pay and start swapping out them plugs.
I do plugs any day over gear oil. Now we're going to pull the spark plugs out. On this motor, we have to remove the coils to get to them. So now we're going to remove the coils and get to the spark plugs. On some motors, we like to number our coils because the wires can interchange and you can swap coils to cylinders. So sometimes I will number each cylinder. On this particular motor, we don't have that issue, but be careful on your application. So now we're going to remove our spark plugs. We use a special spark plug socket. When we pull our spark plugs out, we like to check the burn. We also like to look for any, you see that spark plug? Yeah, that one looks good too. We also look for any white crystals. If I see white crystals, that's telling me we have saltwater intrusions at that point. Everything looks good on the spark plug, we're gonna keep going. I'll tell you, I love these Suzuki kits. They come with everything you need in them. Makes the job easier for us. We buy the kit, we install it. And when you pull spark plugs out, another tip, always check your electrode because they have been shipped. They come with this protector that goes on the end. But always double check, make sure your electrode has not been damaged and the porcelain has not been cracked. Hey, can I borrow a ratchet?
Why, yes, you can.
Well, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Have a lovely day, sir. All right, now we're going to tighten them up. We know we're at the seat. I clock my ratchet. I do half when I get about 3/4 of a turn. I'm done at this point. No more torquing. I do every one this way. and you might not get a full 3/4 turn, don't force it. Not everybody does this. We like to do it here at Rocky Point. We'll put a little dielectric grease on our coils just to help keep it from having any corrosion issues inside the coils at the terminal ends. Little dab will do you.
So now that we got the spark plugs and gear oil taken care of, we're going to be moving on to
Motor oil.
the lifeblood of the engine. See you next week.
When we return, the team at Wildfire Marine helps design and build a one-off interior for the Bertram 25 project. This segment brought to you by Two Rivers Boat Works. Exceptional design, quality, and craftsmanship.
Dreaming of transforming your boat into the envy of the fleet? The experts at Two Rivers Boat Works are dedicated to customizing your boat to your specific needs and personality. Specializing in fiberglass and composites repair, professional painting, systems installation, and more. Founded by boating enthusiasts, we understand the enjoyment of being on the water, offering exceptional design, craftsmanship, and quality, so you can spend more time on the water than dreaming about it. Visit our facility in Stuart, Florida, and turn your boating dreams.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us as the team at Wildfire Marine mocks and fabricates custom seating for the 25-foot Bertram.
Here at Wildfire Marine, we're working on Dave Taylor's 25-foot Bertram project. Now that we have our transom all wrapped up, we're going to go ahead and work on some custom seating and another piece of deck up in the forward area to give him a little more cockpit space. The first thing we did up forward is both of the bulkheads going into the cabin, where Bertram used to use marine plywood covered with formica for a finish. And basically the material is raw, and so the bottoms of all of them had rotted out. So we took the two bulkheads out and basically made patterns, and we laid up new cord bulkheads out of Divinycell and biaxial fiberglass, and we went ahead and put those in place so we could put his dashboard back on. On these old 25 Bertrams, they have a big drop in the deck between the two helm chairs. So what we did is we made a filler panel to take up that space and bring it up flush with the rest of the deck. And by doing that, it turned the cockpit into a very large cockpit over what it used to be. It's more usable than before. Dave wanted to come up with more of a different seating configuration for the boat. So what we did is he gave me some basic ideas. So I built a bunch of cardboard mock-up seats, and you taped them together, and we brought them up. And when Dave came up, we put them on the boat, and he had mentioned he wanted an L-shaped couch. So we went ahead and built these longer pieces and set them on the boat, and then moved them around till we found out where he liked them, and then marked them. And then we would cut them and then go ahead and make our molds those sizes that he chose. If we had one seat that was going to be uniform, we would go ahead and make a good mold for it. But because we had 4 different ones, rather than go through the expense and time of building molds, we went ahead and made what I call knockdown molds. It's basically a piece of 1/4-inch plywood that's covered with smooth formica, and we cut it to the sizes that we need. And then basically we tape them together with air conditioning duct tape. Basically we built these out of a couple layers of mat, some biaxial glass, and Divinycell coring to make them nice and rigid since they're going to be sat on. And Dave also needed some storage, and rather than going into the V-berth all the time. So I made good sized gutters where all the hatches are, so that any water, rainwater or any other type of water that gets on them is just going to run straight out onto the deck and back towards the transom where they'll drain out. They're a little bit rough, but they serve well for a minimum cost for a piece of plywood and formica. We went ahead and built 4 molds out of 1 sheet of plywood. So it's a very cost-effective way to build something custom like that. Once we got all of the seats roughed in, then we had to trim the excess glass on it, but then I have to do all the finish work. We got the corners are a little bit rough. They have to be sanded down. There's going to be a couple little deformations in them here and there. So there's a little bit of fairing and then some primer, and then we'll go ahead and paint them to match the interior of the boat. While we're working on those, we get a call from Armstrong that our bracket is ready. So that's going to be our next step. Once we get the bracket up here, we're going to go ahead and lay that out and get that bolted on the back.
When we come back, George Labonte joins Dreamboat owner Jessica Wakefield aboard her completely restored 26-foot Gold Line in this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment. This segment brought to you by Taco Marine. Troll the edge.
Safety is paramount when boating. That's why Taco developed the Grand Slam 800 VHF antenna mount. Easily raise and lower your boat's antenna by simply unlocking the crank handle from the base and turning. It's quick, easy, and best of all, safe. No more climbing on gunnels, seats, or tops just to adjust your antenna. Find out more about the Grand Slam 800 VHF antenna mount at tacomarine.com.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us for this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment with Florida Sportsman Boating editor George Labonte as we feature anglers who have already launched their dream. Florida Sportsman began these features 30 years ago, and the dreams just keep getting better.
As we've seen throughout the past several seasons of Project Dreamboat, everybody's got a little bit different motivation for why they take on a restoration project on their boat. In the case of today's segment, we meet up with Jessica Wakefield, who took this project on not only to have a boat to enjoy with her growing family, but also to pay tribute to her late father. Today, we join Jessica and her husband Dustin to check out their 1987 Gold Line 26.
My dad had a custom built in 1987 for him. He was historically a commercial fisherman here in Jupiter, Florida. Fished locally for 20 years. And he passed about 10 years ago, and when we inherited it, we decided to rebuild the boat. My dad got this boat in 1987. It was one of the top-of-the-line commercial boats. It was the go-to solid structure, you know, but after 20-plus years of offshore fishing, being beat up, you know, by the time when my dad passed away 10 years ago and we took over the boat, it needed a lot of work. It was not exactly seaworthy. When we took on this project, it was really took a team. I can't say any more than my husband, who's been so helpful throughout the process, who's been there, who knew my dad from the beginning. You know, he knows all the structural and how to do all the work, and you know, we knew what we wanted out of it. I knew what I expected out of the expectations, but he knew how to actually make that happen.
I'd go fishing with them. We'd come back, you know, any problems that the boat had, you know, me and her dad would fix it, and he taught me a lot about, you know, fiberglassing and, you know, keeping up, you know, fixing stuff on the boat. It really helped out a lot with, you know, growing up and, you know, having boats. Originally, we just replaced the deck. The tank needed to be replaced. The top was cracked in a million places, that needed to be replaced, but you know, the stringers and transom were still original, you know, going on 30-something years old. So we decided to keep it and gut it, and that's, you know, that's what we did. We started about just gutting the whole boat. Did a composite, Akusa board, transom, foam deck, and foam stringers. The old top had the ladder going up the back, you know, was all tied into the leaning post, and it had a little tower, which we really liked the way it was set up. It was just in really bad shape. It was not salvageable at all. So we kind of took that, you know, and put it to, you know, a newer version, you know, so it kind of had the same look that it used to have. One of our main goals was not only to fish out here, but to get back to the Bahamas. So instead of going with a single motor, we put a bracket on, put the twins on there. We put bigger motors on it in case we ever had an issue. We could still get up and run with one motor. When we repowered the boat, we decided to put the Suzuki 250 4-strokes on. They were used when we got them, and we haven't had any issues with them. They've been great motors. So it really came out good. You know, the boat seems to handle a lot better. It's much more solid. We don't ever, you know, I don't expect to have to worry about anything structural for the next 30 years, you know. I think if he's seen the boat today, you know, I think he'd be pretty happy with it, you know. So I think both of us kind of, you know, enjoy that and think about that, you know, like, what do you think he would think if he looked at the boat?
Would have been very easy for us to just go buy any boat that wasn't such a project to undertake, but the sentimental value that I had with this boat, you know, that was the only way after my dad passing for me to really be connected to him, because this is where my best memories came into play as a kid. So it really, really created a foundation for wanting to rebuild the boat to stay connected to my dad.
Not only will Jessica and Dustin get to enjoy quality time on her dad's old boat, but soon a new family member comes along and he'll also be able to enjoy growing up on the boat just as Jessica did.
You know, we have a son on the way. We can't wait to get him out on the boat and have him have the experiences that we have, and, you know, show him, you know, the waters and the Bahamas and everything else, you know, that this boat, you know, has always given us.
I see a lot of loose goldfish crackers and spilled sippy cups in Jessica and Dustin's future. To make cleanup a little bit easier, our friends at Surehold were happy to provide them with some great products to keep that boat looking her best. After wrapping up this segment, I know Jessica's dad would be extremely proud of her for the job she's done on this boat.
After inheriting the hull from her father and performing necessary repairs and custom modifications, the cost of Jessica's Dreamboat comes to a total of $50,000. When we return, the professionals at TRB begin the creative process on their latest fully custom project. This segment brought to you by Suzuki Marine, the ultimate outboard motor.
Go to SuzukiMarine.com to find a dealer near you.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us as the creatives at Two Rivers Boatworks begin the build of a performance boat that is truly unique and custom.
Yeah, Two Rivers Boatworks. About a year ago, I started a project where I wanted to take a reasonably priced boat and customize it. Basically demonstrating that you could take a reasonably priced boat, put some really nice things on, and you'd still come out less than buying a cheap production boat. And while doing this project, I found that I could let my creative juices go with it, and I really enjoyed doing that. And then I started looking at, well, what would happen if we took a line of smaller boats and customize them? So in other words, we'd get a brand new boat and customize it the sort of TRB way. So that's how TRB Customs was born. So we took our end bay, we gave it a good clean out, we painted the walls, we epoxy coated the floor. I brought in a laser to do the acrylic and make templates and do a number of other things. We moved our sign shop in here, doing all our vinyl signs and graphics and all that sort of thing. I also then needed a space where I could do some more creative paint work, airbrushing, that sort of thing, and a space we could do the Cerakoting out of. We slowly created the building that we're in at the moment, where we are producing some cool custom stuff. So after we did the skimmer skiff, the skimmer skiff is a great little boat, but we felt we needed something just a little more than the skimmer skiff, something that can carry a little more power, something that can comfortably take 2 or more people out fishing. Being that I always find the performance side of the industry fascinating, Bobby, who we get the skimmer skiffs from, said, you should really have a look at my friend's boats. I didn't know anything about the Hydra Step when I first heard about it. And then I started studying up on, first of all, who Steven Stepp is. I mean, this guy holds 14 world speed titles, 8 offshore titles. He built the first boat, offshore boat, to do 100 miles an hour. When he explained to me the design philosophy behind the Hydra Step, I was kind of, wow, this is a cool boat. First of all, it's a big, wide, stable platform to fish off of. He's put a lot of thought into the hull. He wanted a bay boat, went out, tested a bunch of them, didn't like them, designed his own boat. That is kind of the reason that we went with the Hydra Step. You know, it's lightweight, it's performance-based. It's a kind of break away from what other boat manufacturers are doing. I just liked everything about the boat and decided to bring in a line of Hydra Steps. So the whole thing with the Hydro Step was that I wanted to faux the whole boat, but at the same time I wanted to do sort of like a retro mod where we take in modern materials, modern designs, modern motors, navigational equipment, all that sort of thing, and putting it in making it work with something that's sort of old. And that's where the design process started with this boat. So a big part of doing this faux project is laying down the base coat. Having looked into various colors that are used for the base, for various base coats and all that sort of thing, I decided to use the all-craft peanut butter as my base coat to the project. So I got Kurt down the road in the Dreamboat district to lay down the base coat for me. So I'm still waiting for some materials to come in to start the faux process on the Hydro Step. But to go with a whole retro mod look, I want to take the 1964 100 horsepower Mercury, which was called the Merc 1000. I want to find a way of incorporating it in with the modern motor. I got a friend of mine who does graphics and stickers and that, and we took some of the old retro decals off of the Merc 1000, and I've changed them slightly. For example, where it had 100 horsepower, I've changed it to 175. And with the design idea of doing a mahogany looking boat, this new Mercury motor being done in a retro mod style too will really marry well with the whole design philosophy that I have an idea for. So what I've done is I've put the Mercury sticker on, and we've taken some of these chrome strips. It's temporary. Before I spend the money on the good stuff, I thought let's rather use the cheap stuff and see how it looks. And it also is a great way to showcase TRB Customs, because we do things differently. We're not doing what's been done before. I want to do things that are different. You know, turning your dreams into reality one boat at a time. That is TRB Customs.
Next week on Florida Sportsman, Project Dreamboat. The experts at TRB dive back into the skimmer skiff project with custom details in mind. George Labonte joins Randy Orr aboard his tricked-out 18-foot Maverick. The technicians at Rocky Point Boatworks provide oil change know-how while performing the Suzuki Outboard 100-hour service. And the team at Wildfire Marine installs a custom Armstrong bracket on the 25-foot Bertram project.